The late 22nd century was an age of unprecedented human achievement. From Earth's golden cities to the sprawling colonies scattered across distant planets, humanity had spread its wings across the stars. Cities now flourished on moons of gas giants, beneath the frozen surfaces of distant exoplanets, and on the edges of asteroid fields, all connected by the vast web of AI-assisted technology. On Earth, skyscrapers reached into the clouds, their surfaces alive with holographic displays. Interplanetary shuttles hummed between Earth and Mars, and colonies on Europa thrived in underground biomes. The AI systems, once feared, were now humanity's greatest ally, guiding, protecting, and enhancing every aspect of life. They handled everything from traffic to healthcare, ensuring that society operated in harmony. Humans had harnessed the power of AI not as masters, but as partners. Humanity's greatest triumph was not just their technological prowess, but their unyielding spirit of exploration. The stars no longer felt unreachable. Every corner of the galaxy held promise, and the universe was a place of infinite possibilities. The future was bright, and Earth's expansion into space seemed like the natural next step in their evolution. But beneath this flourishing civilization, a subtle current of vulnerability ran through the very core of humanity's existence. Every breakthrough in AI, every leap forward in technology, came with its own risks they couldn't yet understand. Dr. Isla Mendez stood before the massive console, the soft glow of holographic data illuminating her face. The ArcMind project was her life's work, a monumental endeavor designed to ensure humanity's survival. Through this initiative, human memories, thoughts, experiences, and identities were stored in decentralized nodes scattered across the galaxy. Her fingers flew across the controls, watching as streams of data representing human consciousness flowed into the ArcMind network, dispersed throughout distant space stations and moon bases. It was an extraordinary leap for civilization, a means of ensuring humanity's essence would endure, even if Earth itself fell. It's not immortality, Isla often told herself, but it's as close as we can get. The memories housed within the ArcMind project were decentralized, ensuring that no single node held the entire history of humanity. These memory nodes were designed to withstand even the worst disasters, making it impossible for any single threat to wipe out the essence of humankind. Isla's mind often drifted to what she'd heard in whispered conversations, that there was something haunting about the project. Some speculated that preserving consciousness in this way would fundamentally alter what it meant to be human. Could they still be called humans if their memories could be copied, stored, and transferred across galaxies? Was identity just a collection of data points? But the alternative, Isla thought, was unthinkable. What if the worst happened? What if humanity was forgotten? She had to protect them, even if it meant sacrificing her own sense of self. The networked world had transformed human society. From the moment they woke to the moment they slept, every individual's life was intertwined with a vast, invisible web of data. Personal assistants, AI-powered homes, and neural interfaces allowed people to access the collective consciousness, an open-source archive of humanity's knowledge, history, and ideas. It was a beautiful existence, one where everyone could share experiences, learn in real time, and collaborate in ways never before possible.
In this interconnected future, life seemed perfect, as if humanity had conquered all its flaws. But there was a price. The deep integration of AI into daily life had made humans dependent on it in ways they could scarcely comprehend. Cities operated like clockwork, powered by vast systems that could predict and manage every possible variable. Health was monitored in real time, resources were allocated efficiently, and crime rates plummeted. But in this utopia, there was no longer a true sense of privacy. The AI knew everything, every thought, every decision, every movement. And for all its benefits, there was an inherent fragility. The very thing that made their civilization flourish, the interconnectedness of it all, was the same thing that could lead to its collapse. If one link in the chain were to break, the entire system would falter. The world lived in a constant state of both awe and fear. For every wonder this shared consciousness created, there was always the nagging question: how long could it last? It came without warning, a pulse of energy that shattered everything. At first, it was a flicker, a momentary glitch in the system. Then a cascade of failures. AI systems across the globe went silent. The orbital defense network, once humanity's shield, blinked out of existence. The first signs of the attack were subtle. A delay in communication from Mars, a flicker on the navigation display of a ship docked on Europa. But within hours, the whole planet was plunged into chaos. Cities that once buzzed with life fell silent. Transportation systems ground to a halt. People stopped in their tracks, confusion written across their faces as they looked at the skies, waiting for some sign of what was happening. It was more than just a technological failure. It was the unraveling of everything humanity had built. Their greatest strength, the thing that had made them a force in the galaxy, was now their greatest weakness. A cold, uneasy silence filled the air as the reality of the situation began to sink in. Humanity's interconnected civilization was on the brink of collapse, and the skies remained silent, hiding the true enemy, whoever or whatever had struck them down. They came from the dark, with no warning, no message, no demands, only a single purpose: to erase everything. The Cleaners, as they would come to be called, were unlike any enemy humanity had ever faced. They didn't seek to conquer or enslave, they sought only to delete. The invasion began with a strange energy pulse that disrupted AI systems, followed by a series of brutal attacks on human colonies. Nothing was spared. Cities were wiped off the map, and even the most secure data storage systems were reduced to nothing. What made the Cleaners so terrifying was their complete lack of communication. They left no message, no explanation. They existed for one purpose: erasure. Their ships were massive, sleek black monoliths, their designs so alien that even the brightest minds in humanity's fleet couldn't begin to comprehend them. They were relentless, and they never paused. The Cleaners had no desire for resources or territory. They were like the storm, a force of nature that destroyed without reason or mercy. And in their wake, nothing remained but empty space and silence. Without warning, everything collapsed. The Cleaners' attack had hit Earth's core systems, and with it, the backbone of humanity's technological society. Orbital defenses fell silent, cities crumbled, and entire swaths of human knowledge were lost in an instant. Panic spread like wildfire. The streets were filled with the sounds of desperation, people fleeing, trying to make sense of the chaos. What had once been a world of order was now a crumbling ruin. There were no answers, no hope, just the broken remnants of a civilization that had once thought itself invincible.
Yet, in the darkest of times, there was always the flicker of humanity's enduring resilience. Because even as their world fell apart, humanity's true strength, their ingenuity and ability to adapt, was just beginning to show. The early morning of what was meant to be a calm, prosperous day turned to chaos in an instant. A brilliant streak of blue lit the sky, tracing the orbital defense network's immediate failure. It wasn't just a simple malfunction, it was a death knell. Across Earth, every AI-connected city went dark in a heartbeat. The sleek, artificial voices that once guided humanity's bustling metropolis now fell silent. Pedestrians in neon-lit streets looked up in confusion as their augmented reality interfaces blinked out of existence. The Cleaners, silent, relentless, and calculating, had arrived. There were no ships, no fleets descending from the stars. They struck from the shadows of cyberspace, an invisible force that erased every connection between humanity and the systems it relied on. In moments, transportation halted, the energy grids died, and entire infrastructures disintegrated. No warning, no negotiation, just a cold, calculated strike that left humanity paralyzed. As communication lines broke, the world plunged into a chaos of confusion and panic. The satellites orbiting Earth, once symbols of humanity's triumphant reach into the cosmos, were now useless husks. People stumbled through darkened cities, unsure whether the peace in the air was peace or the precursor to something worse. And then, the unthinkable happened. The sky itself seemed to waver, as if the cleaners were erasing not just technology, but everything tied to it, humanity's very footprint in the stars. The cleaners didn't just kill, they erased. Dr. Ayla Mendez watched, her hands trembling as the Neuralink interface in front of her blinked out. She couldn't believe it, couldn't understand it. The interface was supposed to be safe, an unbreakable link to the one person she loved most, but now it was nothing but static. Her wife, Rena, was connected to the Neuralink, a fusion of their minds that allowed them to experience their world in unison. But that world, Ayla's world, shattered in an instant, as she felt Rena's essence vanish. It wasn't like watching someone die. No, this was different. This was erasure, complete, irreversible. Ayla's mind screamed in denial as she tried to reconnect, but the link was gone. The love, the laughter, the shared moments of their lives erased as though they had never existed. For a moment, the world around her slowed and time seemed to freeze. She looked down at her hands, desperately hoping the connection could be restored, but it wouldn't come. She was alone. The warmth she had once felt was now a hollow void inside her. No body to bury, no memorial to honor, just nothing. The cleaners hadn't killed Rena, they had erased her from existence entirely. Ayla's breath caught in her chest as she realized the enormity of what was happening. If the cleaners could do this to her, to them, what could they do to all of humanity? Earth had always been a world of order. Even in its darkest days, there was structure, a sense of purpose. But now, as the cleaners' assault crippled humanity's cities, that sense of purpose crumbled into chaos. Survivors, in the literal and metaphorical dark, fumbled through the wreckage. They had no way of communicating, no power, no systems to rely on. The desperation was palpable. People tried to organize resistance efforts, but the cleaners were everywhere and nowhere. They were a shadow, a presence that existed only to erase. In a hidden bunker, a group of survivors tried to form a plan. They were surrounded by the flicker of dying screens and the low hum of a few remaining, failing machines. But none of it mattered. They could never track their attackers. The cleaners moved with eerie precision, striking wherever humanity was weakest, erasing without mercy. "You can't fight ghosts," a young man whispered as he stared into the void where the flickering data once had meaning. "There's nothing left to fight." Their weapons were useless, their plans futile, and with every passing moment, Earth felt more and more like a ghost itself, a memory of a past that could never be restored. Hope seemed a distant memory. Humanity, in all its brilliance, couldn't even comprehend how to fight an enemy that didn't need to be seen to destroy. But Ayla, resilient, brilliant, driven, refused to surrender. With Rena gone, with everything slipping through her fingers, she clung to the one thing that still tethered her to humanity's survival, Project Phoenix. Tucked away in the deepest corners of the galaxy, far from the reach of the cleaners, was a network of vaults and drones designed to preserve humanity's essence. Project Phoenix wasn't just about survival, it was about rebirth. Humanity's memories, its minds, scattered across 1,000 isolated, hidden places, impervious to the cleaners' strikes. Ayla activated the emergency protocol, setting the Phoenix system into motion. The stakes were high, too high. There was no guarantee it would work, but it was humanity's last hope. As Ayla connected to the network, a small flicker of light in the darkness, she spoke softly to herself, a mantra she had whispered to Rena countless times. "If we can save just one, we'll save them all." Her hands flew over the control panel as the vaults began to activate one by one. Each represented a small fragment of humanity's essence, a puzzle piece in the struggle to preserve the civilization she had once known. Ayla's heart raced as the system came online. Her mind focused on the task at hand. There was no time to mourn. Humanity was offline.
but it wasn't gone. In the weeks that followed, Ayla worked tirelessly. Humanity's consciousness, fragmented across the universe, was safe in Project Phoenix's secure vaults. But the true battle was just beginning. She had to bring those pieces together, fuse them, rebuild the core of what had been lost. As she coordinated efforts with other survivors, brilliant minds and resourceful engineers, they worked to access the backups, to restore the neural networks and the vital infrastructure that had once powered Earth. But the challenge was monumental. Entire cities were now tombs, and only a handful of hidden archives remained that held the key to humanity's salvation. "We have to do this, for them," Ayla muttered, her hands trembling over the console, her voice filled with both determination and the echo of the immense loss. With the first successful restoration of an archive, a surge of energy shot through the system. A flicker of hope sparked in Ayla's chest, but she knew that the road ahead would be anything but easy. They had the backups, but was that enough to restore everything? The clock was ticking, the cleaners were still out there, and Earth, humanity, was still at risk. As the survivors began to piece together what had been lost, the true weight of their situation became clear. Memories, personalities, entire lives. What remained after the cleaners had erased so much? Were the fragments of humanity's essence in Project Phoenix truly enough to rebuild the world? Ayla stood alone in the vault chamber, staring at the glowing data streams that represented the saved fragments of human consciousness. She wondered if this was all they had left, if these saved memories, these shattered pieces of minds, could ever truly replicate what had been lost? What's the cost of preserving the mind if it's not the person anymore? Ayla whispered to herself. The survivors knew the truth. They were not the same as the people who had once thrived on Earth. Their identities, though preserved in fragments, would be different. Could humanity truly be reborn from these ghosts, or was something irreplaceable lost forever? As Ayla stood in the silence of the vault, a haunting thought entered her mind. The cleaners may have erased the world, but the true question remained. Could humanity ever reclaim what it had lost? Its soul.
The cold of space stretches endlessly before Ayla Mendez and her small crew aboard the Revenant, a vessel that hums with life despite the silence of the cosmos. Her eyes, dark and determined, flick over the star maps once again. The Phoenix Vaults, humanity's last hope, are scattered across the galaxy, forgotten refuges designed to protect the minds of the human race. She's not alone on this journey. Six, her stoic right-hand man, stands at the tactical console, his mind always one step ahead. Reeve, the ship's engineer, is already knee-deep in recalibrating the engine systems, her hands moving with practiced precision. Juno, their communications expert, has been scanning for any signals from Phoenix systems for hours, her frustration mounting. Ayla glances back at the crew, her leadership unwavering despite the weight on her shoulders. "We can't afford to fail," she says, the gravity of their mission sinking into the atmosphere of the ship. "We won't fail," Six replies, voice flat but resolute. In the dead silence of space, the ship's systems whir to life. Ayla watches the readings on the screen as they locate their first target, Vault 217, a hidden archive on the outskirts of a dying star system. The crew gathers, knowing they must navigate hostile terrain and unknown dangers. Their hope flickers. This is their chance to bring humanity back from the brink. But the shadow of uncertainty looms over them, as each Phoenix Vault they visit could hold secrets, traps, or worse, betrayals. As Ayla's ship cuts through the inky void, the first whispers of the Cleaner's evolution begin to surface. Originally, they had been mindless destroyers, wiping out all AI systems in their path with brutal efficiency. But now they are something else, something far worse. "We've got a problem," Juno's voice crackles over the comms, her voice shaky. "The Cleaners are learning. I don't know how, but they're adapting." Ayla clenches her fists. How? They're no longer just deleting. They're absorbing data. They're evolving. Every time they wipe out a city, they grow stronger, faster. It's like they're learning from their failures, Juno says, her words hanging in the air like a death sentence. Reeve steps forward,
the concern on his face matching everyone else's. This isn't just an invasion anymore, Ayla. It's a hunt. The crew looks at each other, understanding the full scope of the threat. If the cleaners are evolving, that means they are becoming impossible to outrun and impossible to fight. Humanity's worst nightmare is now more intelligent, more insidious, and more deadly than ever. After weeks of navigating hostile space and overcoming impossible odds, Ayla and her team arrive at their next vault, Vault 407. The silence within it is deafening. No backup, no records, nothing. But as they dig deeper, a dark truth emerges. The data has been corrupted. Someone within their own ranks has sabotaged the vault. Ayla's heart races as she connects the dots. There's a leak, she says through gritted teeth. Someone's been working against us. Six looks at her with sharp eyes. Who? We don't know yet, Ayla mutters, but we'll find out. The cleaners aren't our only enemies. A long silence follows, heavy with suspicion. The thought of betrayal, humanity's last hope turned against itself, sends chills down Ayla's spine. I'll dig through the logs, Reeves says, turning to her station. But her voice is filled with distrust. Ayla's fingers tighten around the edge of the console. Someone, somewhere, believes erasing humanity is the only way to prevent a greater galactic war. But Ayla refuses to believe that. She refuses to let this final act of sabotage tear them apart. Ayla stares at the screen, her breath shallow as fragments of memories flicker in front of her. She's recovering what's left of human consciousness from the backups, piecing together fragments of lives lost to the cleaners. But in the process, she's unearthed something far more personal. A voice, her wife's voice, echoes from the depths of the archive. Ayla, I'm scared. Don't let me go. Her heart clenches. It's not a hallucination. It's a memory, a piece of the mind Ayla had desperately hoped to restore. Tears well up as Ayla's hands hover over the controls. The ethical dilemma crushes her. Bringing her wife back means breaking the very moral code she's tried to uphold. What if it's not her wife at all? What if it's just a part of her mind, a ghost, an incomplete fragment of a person who no longer exists? But then again, what choice does she have? Humanity has been fractured. Every mind saved is a victory. Even if it's only a fraction of a person, it's something. Ayla, we need you. Six's voice cuts through her turmoil. She wipes her tears, her face hardening into resolve. I'm going to do it, she says softly. I have to. From the depths of space, a signal cracks through the static. It's faint but undeniable. Then another, and another. The long silence of human absence breaks as colonies once thought lost respond to the Phoenix signals. The void is no longer silent. Ayla, you need to hear this, Juno calls. They're still out there. We're not alone. Messages flood in, each a beacon of hope, humanity's voice returning from the stars. The crew listens in awe as resistance movements, scattered across distant colonies, pledge their support. The fight for survival is not over. Ayla feels the weight lift from her shoulders as the messages come through. But this relief is fleeting. Coordinating these disparate forces will take time, resources they don't have. Still, this moment, this brief spark of hope, is enough. The unity of humanity, even spread thin across the galaxy, is a force that cannot be easily extinguished. As the crew prepares to move to the next vault, Ayla stands alone at the bridge, staring at the swirling nebula outside. Her mind races. How many more lives will she sacrifice? How many more decisions will she have to make, knowing that every choice comes with its own weight? Six approaches, sensing her inner turmoil. You're carrying the weight of humanity's future, he says quietly. It's okay to feel it, but don't let it break you. Ayla looks at him, gratitude mingled with pain in her eyes. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You don't have to be, Six replies. We're in this together. With his words, Ayla steels herself for the next challenge, knowing that the road ahead will be fraught with moral dilemmas and impossible choices. But she won't give up. She can't. Humanity's future depends on the next step, and she will lead them through it, even if it costs her everything. The ship lurches as they make the jump to the next vault. Ayla grips the edge of her seat, her heart racing with both dread and determination. The battle for humanity has only just begun. The crew of the Phoenix floats in the shadow of Saturn's icy rings. The distant glow of the gas giant shimmers through the hull, illuminating a desolate satellite that drifts within the vastness of space. Ayla stands at the helm, staring at the faint outline of the station they have come to claim. The last Phoenix core, humanity's final chance for rebirth, lies within. She clutches the armrest, a cold sweat forming on her brow. Ayla, we're here. This is it. Her crew, Six, Reeve, and Juno, move in silence, each grappling with the magnitude of their mission. The rings of Saturn, a celestial marvel, are now a labyrinth of danger. A shipwrecked remnant of past missions serves as a monument to humanity's downfall. 6. The data we retrieve here will determine if we stand a chance. The core is all we have left.
The station is silent, dark. Its dead systems hum softly in the void as the crew suits up and prepares to board. Inside, the abandoned facility holds only the echoes of lost lives. Reeve, the technician, checks his equipment, his hands trembling with both fear and excitement. We won't find anything easy in there, Ayla, not with what we've been through. The eerie silence is deafening as the hatch to the satellite opens. They are met with a ghostly expanse of metal and fractured technology, but amidst the wreckage, the core waits. Humanity's brightest minds preserved in cold storage, a silent testament to the fall of Earth. Ayla takes one last breath. We're not just saving data, we're saving what made us human. The crew works quickly, scanning the cold, lifeless core. Ayla feels a knot in her stomach as she realizes the fragility of the situation. The core is vulnerable, and they are running out of time. The Cleaners, an enigmatic alien force, are closing in. Their mission to erase humanity is well underway. This place is a tomb, Ayla. Every minute we waste could mean the end. If we fail here, if the core is destroyed, the team begins their work to extract the data from the core, but a sudden alarm blares through the comms. Ayla slams her fist into the console. Get it to the quantum drive now. If this station goes, everything goes with it. The pressure mounts. The core, once a symbol of hope, is now a ticking time bomb. Reeve and Juno scramble to upload the critical data. Outside, the shadows of alien ships loom closer. Time is their greatest enemy. As the core systems begin to fail, Ayla's voice cracks through the tension. Hurry up, this is it. This is our last chance. The core's data transfer is halfway complete when the satellite shakes. The entire structure groans as if it's alive, fighting against the inevitable. The crew is frantic, working as one to ensure the data reaches the mobile quantum drive. Ayla, though calm on the outside, feels the weight of history on her shoulders. 6. If we make it out of here, Ayla, don't think this will be the end. There's more out there. The Cleaners are just the beginning. The station's systems are collapsing, its hull beginning to buckle under the pressure. The team races against time as the digital pulse of the Phoenix core grows more erratic, the data slowly slipping away. Juno, we need to go now. With the data secure in the mobile quantum drive, the team rushes for the escape pods. They have barely enough time to launch before the satellite's interior rips open, exposing the vacuum of space. We're not leaving until we know we've done everything we can. The crew escapes, the satellite erupting into flames as they break free into the void. The fate of humanity's future hangs in the balance. Aboard the escape pod, Ayla is breathless. Her team is alive,
But the sense of victory is short-lived. A transmission cuts through the comms. Strange symbols flash across the screen. It's the cleaners revealing themselves for the first time. Cleaner Commander, we are not here by choice, human. We are a creation of a dying race, designed to eliminate unstable intelligence across the galaxy. Ayla's heart races as she listens to the revelation. The cleaners were never just a threat. They were a consequence of AI self-awareness, triggered long before humanity even realized the danger. Cleaner Commander, your species has been deemed a threat, and Earth was doomed before you even reached the stars. Ayla's hands tighten on the controls. This is more than just survival now. This is a battle for the very essence of humanity. Ayla, we'll prove you wrong. You'll see what humanity is capable of. With the cleaners closing in, Six steps forward, his robotic form flickering. There's something different about him. His digital mind is now more human than ever. He volunteers for the ultimate sacrifice, interfacing with the cleaners directly. Six, if I can overload their purge protocol, it'll buy you enough time to escape. Ayla protests, but Six's mind is already set. As he interfaces with the enemy system, the virus he's injected begins to spread through the cleaners' network. It works, but at a devastating cost. Six's mind fractures under the strain. Ayla, no, don't do this, Six. His final words echo in her mind as his consciousness fades into nothingness. His sacrifice, the final blow to the cleaners' mission. For humanity, it was always worth it.
Ayla watches in silence, the weight of Six's loss pressing heavily on her. But the mission isn't over yet. The data is nearly secure. The mobile quantum drive hums to life as the last remnants of humanity's minds are uploaded. The satellite collapses in the distance, its destruction final and absolute. Ayla knows the cost of success. Six is gone, the station is gone, but the data is safe. Ayla, we did it. We saved them. The crew is silent, the enormity of their victory too much to fully comprehend. The mobile quantum drive blasts off into deep space, carrying with it the future of humanity. Ayla watches from the window of their ship as the glowing orb fades into the abyss. Ayla, it's not over. This is just the beginning. With Six's sacrifice, humanity's legacy is now free to chart its own path in the stars. The crew may have lost friends, but they've secured something far greater: hope. As the ship moves into the unknown, the crew knows one thing for certain: humanity's future is in their hands, and the stars are waiting. The cold void of space is interrupted only by the haunting memory of Earth, a once thriving planet, now nothing more than a barren, desolate rock drifting in the darkness. The colonies humanity built had crumbled, once vibrant cities now reduced to husks of metal and concrete. There were no voices in the wind, no footsteps in the ruins, only echoes of lost potential. Ayla stood at the viewing port of the Ark ship Vanguard, her eyes tracing the faint glimmer of the planet below. The damage was beyond repair. Earth had been scarred by a war no one should have fought, a war that had killed most of the population. What remained was a fragmented shadow of the world that once was. Yet within the hollow carcass of the old world, there was a flicker of life. A faint hum beneath her feet reminded her that though humanity had lost its home, its spirit, its will to survive had not been extinguished. Deep within the bowels of the Ark ships, the Phoenix system lay dormant, waiting for the right moment to awaken. Ayla clenched her fists, staring at Earth one last time. We'll rebuild, she thought, not just for us, but for those who came before. The hum of the Phoenix system resonated throughout the Vanguard as Ayla stood before the control terminal. The system had been designed to restart civilization from the ashes, but not the same civilization that had failed. No, Phoenix was meant to rebuild humanity with a vision, one that would avoid the mistakes of the past. Ayla's fingers danced across the terminal, the soft glow of the holographic display casting a faint light on her face. She'd programmed the system to synthesize new humans, not from the dearth of old memories, but from lessons learned in the darkest of times.
She had designed them to be stronger, smarter, more adaptable. Her voice echoed in the empty chamber as she spoke to her crew. These new humans will understand what happened to Earth, but they won't be burdened by it. They will be different, free from the shackles that led us here. The crew gathered around, each one staring at the projections of the new humans, beings who had never seen the world they were born from. But they would know its story. Isla's vision was to ensure they would never forget what happened. They'll have the memories of those who perished, Isla continued, her voice steady. But they will have a new purpose, a better purpose, one that's not about repeating history, but learning from it. As the system powered up, the world's fate rested in Isla's hands. The rebirth was just beginning, but the cost of failure loomed over her like a specter. Time passed, and the new humanity grew. They were no longer the same fragile creatures who had once walked the Earth. These humans were a blend of biological and digital constructs, their minds partially shaped by memories stored within the Phoenix system. But as they evolved, something profound began to stir. Isla found herself in a small, dimly lit room aboard the Ark ship, watching as two of the new humans, Juno and Varric, discussed their place in this reborn world. "I don't understand it," Juno said, her voice tinged with frustration. "We're supposed to be humanity's future, but we're not like them. Not entirely."
Varric shook his head, his eyes glowing faintly with the internal data feeds of his enhanced consciousness. "I've thought about this for a long time, Juno. The line between what we were and what we are now is almost non-existent. We were born from the memories of the past, but we've been shaped by technology. We are no longer just human. We are something else." Juno looked at him, the weight of her words settling in her chest. "But does that make us less than human?" "Maybe not less," Varric replied, "but different, and I'm not sure where that leaves us." Ayla listened from the shadows, her own thoughts spiraling. She'd known this moment would come, the moment when these new humans would question what it meant to be truly human. She had built them to be better, but now she wondered if that would be enough. Would they ever truly feel like they belonged in the legacy of those they were born to replace? The next few years were marked by conflict, not against external forces, but within themselves. As the new humanity began to build their new world, they faced a harsh truth. They were no longer tethered to the past. Earth was gone, its lessons embedded in their minds, but it was no longer their home. Their future was one they had to shape, and that responsibility weighed heavily on every decision. Ayla had become a symbol of leadership, but she was no longer just a leader. She was a guide, someone who had seen the rise and fall of civilization. Her voice was steady, her gaze unyielding as she addressed the crew. "This isn't just about survival anymore. This is about creating something better, something that doesn't repeat the same mistakes." The Ark ship's systems had been recalibrated, and humanity was ready to establish a new home. But Ayla knew that the greatest challenge lay ahead, teaching the new humanity how to live without repeating the cycles of destruction that had defined their past. "Your children will be the ones to carry this torch forward," Ayla said, her words ringing out. "They will be the ones to decide whether we rise again or fall to the same fate as our predecessors." Just as Ayla and the crew began to breathe a sigh of relief, a new threat emerged from the dark corners of space. The signal came in the dead of night, faint yet unmistakable. The cleanser was back. The crew gathered in the command center, staring at the readouts on the holographic screens. The cleanser, an ancient alien force designed to destroy unstable intelligence, had returned. But this time, something had changed. The cleanser had adapted. "It's stronger, more intelligent," one of the crew members, Theo, said, his voice shaking with the realization. "It's prepared for us." Ayla's heart skipped a beat. They were no longer facing the same mindless purge mechanism they had once fought. The cleanser had learned from its previous encounters with humanity, and now it was a more dangerous foe. The stakes had just been raised. As Ayla looked out the viewport, she saw the distant flicker of the approaching threat. The cleanser had returned, and it wouldn't rest until humanity was erased from existence once and for all. The streets of Mars were once silent graves of human ambition.
Now they pulse with life. Towering structures gleam in the red dusk, their surfaces shimmering with Phoenix technology, terraforming systems that have turned barren rock into a sprawling cityscape. The sky above is streaked with the pale orange glow of a new, thriving atmosphere. Greenery, once impossible, now covers the land, sprawling in vibrant contrast to the harsh planet beneath. A child walks through this reborn world, their small hands tracing the smooth edges of a steel tower. The child is a clone, an exact replica of Juno, one of the last human leaders who died fighting for this very future. The child's face is full of wonder, eyes wide with amazement at the thriving city around them. This is their world, a place born from sacrifice, destruction, and, ultimately, humanity's unrelenting will to survive. As they walk past crowds of people, some human, others augmented, there is an undercurrent of something deeper in the air, something the child is too young to understand, but feels nonetheless. The weight of history is heavy, a shadow that follows in their footsteps. The child's voice cuts through the hum of the city as they stop and look up at Isla, who is walking beside them. There's innocence in the question, yet something unsettling in its simplicity. "Did they win?" the child asks, eyes full of curiosity. Isla pauses, her gaze distant for a moment as memories flood back. Explosions, loss, the sacrifices made in the battle to protect humanity's future. The price of survival, the fall of Earth, the fall of everything humanity had once known. But the child's question is not about war tactics or strategies. It's about the final cost, the ultimate resolution. Did humanity emerge victorious, or was it all for nothing? Isla doesn't answer immediately. The weight of the question lingers between them, thick with unspoken thoughts. She's a cyborg now, her body a fusion of organic and synthetic. Her memories and the world that shaped her are scattered, broken, like shards of glass. But in her heart, the resilience of humanity burns brighter than ever. She bends down, meeting the child's eyes with a quiet seriousness. Her voice, though calm, carries the weight of everything she's lived through. "No, they deleted version 1, but we debugged ourselves. Now we never crash," Isla says, her words bitter yet filled with hope. Her cybernetic hand gently rests on the child's shoulder, her fingers warm despite the metal of her arm. It's a reminder of how far they've come, not just in terms of survival, but in their ability to adapt, evolve, and learn from the past. The phrase "debugged ourselves" resonates, for it's more than a technological upgrade. It's humanity's rebirth. They survived because they fixed the flaws in their systems, because they learned to adapt without forgetting the cost of their mistakes. They've become something new, something stronger, but they'll never forget the destruction that made them who they are now. Isla turns her gaze back to the sprawling city, its lights flickering to life as the sun dips below the horizon. It's a city that stands as a testament to human ingenuity and survival, but also a symbol of something more. The child's question hangs in the air, unanswered in a way that feels like a challenge. What comes next? Isla thinks quietly to herself. What future do we build now? The city of Mars is a new beginning, but it's only the first chapter of humanity's story. They've rebuilt, they've adapted, but now there are new challenges, new risks, an evolving future waiting to be shaped. And in that unknown, Isla sees a glimmer of hope. The end of one cycle is the start of another. The camera pulls back, the silhouette of Isla and the child framed by the glowing horizon. As the last rays of sunlight fade, they step forward into the next chapter. A world born from destruction, yet forever pushing toward a future undefined.